Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning, Cayman. I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Orit O.C. Connor this morning. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and welcome to a new week, a beautiful day here in the Cayman Islands. We hope it's the same on our sister islands of Little Cayman and Cayman Brac as well. Just a note that For the Record is brought to you by Champion House Restaurant 2 and Champion House Cafe, as well as the Auto Spa on Godfrey Nixon Way. With us in the studio this morning, we're going to have the Deputy Premier as well as the Honorable Tourism Minister, Mr. Moses Kirkconnell, as well as Mr. Dirk Banks, the Director of Public Transportation here in the Cayman Islands. We're just going to touch now on some of the Cayman Compass headlines. Top story in the Compass this morning: armed robberies plague popular tourist venues. I'm sure this is to the disappointment and shock of many locals that armed robbers now seem to be attacking those who visit our islands, as well as continued attacks on our local resident population, Caymanians included, at the popular tourist destinations and restaurants here on 7 Mile Beach and along the waterfront. You can read that story again on the front page of the Cayman Compass. Another event that took place just last week, the Silent Witness March, held by the Business and Professional Women's Club each year. This year it highlighted bullying and domestic abuse. Many local women there involved in that event. The event is usually led by the governor, and this year we had Miss Helen Kilpatrick, Her Excellency, our governor, heading up that march. Also, officials unveil Cayman's Ebola plan. You can read that at the bottom of the front page of the Compass. Last week, on Friday, Premier the Honorable Alden McLaughlin talked a little bit about Cayman's plan and said that, he reassured the public that health officials are in fact moving ahead with a plan. Again, you can read more about that on the bottom of the front page of the Compass. I do know that there is a press conference arranged for later this week where health officials will give us an update on exactly what we here in the Cayman Islands are doing to be prepared for Ebola. On the second page of the Compass, anti-bullying campaign kicks off. It highlights some of our Miss Cayman contestants this year, namely Mahalia Seymour, Kamala Miragusu, and Adriana Christian, again highlighting the bullying of youth on the island with the Save Our Youth Club, as it hosted its first anti-bullying campaign on Friday at John Gray High School in a bid to reach out to the general student population. On page 3, new waste management head appointed, a Mr. Jim Schubert out of Canada. A veteran of Canada's waste management industry has been appointed to lead Cayman's effort to solve its well-documented landfill problems. So in the months going ahead, I'm sure we're going to be talking to and hearing from Mr. Jim Schubert on that issue. Speaking of our environment, local firm volunteers join Magic Reef Restoration. For those of you who may not be aware, one cruise ship anchor actually destroyed some of the reef in the Georgetown area. This story tells of 8 volunteers from the law firm Appleby joined in the reef restoration work at Coral Reef just off Georgetown, wrecked by a cruise ship again recently. So that's great for them. There's an ad in the paper just reminding everybody about Remembrance Day parade and service that's usually held in November, the first Sunday in November. That's the 9th at the Emsley Memorial Church. Of course, this is our time when we remember all of our war veterans who are still with us here in the Cayman Islands, as well as those who have passed on. Again, it's the Cayman Islands Veterans Association. They have a poppy appeal that's going out, so if you see them selling poppies, by all means, please do support them, as those funds are raised to go towards helping veterans here on the island. On page 5, Government Employee of the Year chosen. If you're not aware of this yet, this year we had Miss Venice Tatum from our sister island of Cayman Brac become the second Employee of the Year. earning herself the Deputy Governor's Award. She's an administrative secretary at the Cayman Brac Police Station. And as far as I understand, she is a wonderful employee. And of course, earning the rights to be the Employee of the Year certainly is a testament to that. Just for those who may not be aware, again, senior citizens continue to be recognized as Older Persons Month continues here in the Cayman Islands. Lots of events happening for them in the various districts. So if you have an elderly parent or you know of somebody who's elderly that may go out and benefit from being with their colleagues and their peers, please learn more about that by calling the Family Life Center or the Family Resource Center or even the Department of Children and Family Services, where they can tell you more about celebrations as it relates to our older persons. We have Red Sky at Night that's coming up. Again, that's organized by the Cayman National Cultural Foundation, where musicians, dancers, actors, storytellers, literary, craft, fine, and culinary artists, as well as food vendors are out and about. That's happening in February around K-Fest. Again, you can call the National Cultural Foundation at 949-5477 to find out more about that. All right, again, our guest in the studio this morning, our Deputy Premier and Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Moses Kirkernel. He's joined this morning by Director of Public Transport, Mr. Dirk Banks. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us in our studio this morning. I hope you had a great weekend. And of course, you, our listeners out there, can give us a call. Those numbers are courtesy toll-free of Lime, 1-800-534-8255. or 949-8037. Again, welcome.
Morning, Donna. Thank you very much for having us here. I'd like to say hello to the listening public. And also, of course, I have to have a big shout-out to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Absolutely. So both of you gentlemen doing well this morning?
Yes, good. Thank you, Donna. Good morning to Cayman as well. Want to say a special good morning to all the taxi, tour, and omnibus drivers who are up early. Good morning to them.
Yes. So we're here to talk about tourism today.
Absolutely.
Minister Kirkernel, particularly as it relates to our sister island of Cayman Brac. What can you tell us as far as we've seen Cayman Airways in the news lately? There's a new 30-seater aircraft that's been leased to take more passengers and to have more seats available into the sister island of Cayman Brac, the bigger of the two sister islands. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, we look at Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. We're pleased with the product that they offer. We believe that it's a diversification, and we position the Cayman Islands as three individual islands that all have their individual strengths. Mm-hmm. And of course, with strengths come weaknesses. And we identified early on that one of the things that we had to look at was the airlift itself into Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. And it's extremely interesting that once the study was done to look at the three airports that had to be built for Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and Grand Cayman, with the stress on Oriya, we had stakeholder consultation. When we had the consultation in Little Cayman, one of the things that was clearly stated was Little Cayman is doing fine. Little Cayman's occupancy is extremely high. The stakeholders are very solid. They know their product. They know what they're offering. They know how to attract their guests, and they manage the expectation when the guest arrives. Then we looked at Cayman Brac and stakeholder consultation and realized that we didn't have to do anything with Little Cayman at this point. The business case for the new airport to be built in Little Cayman is a $10 to $15 million issue, and the identification by the business case itself was that we need to immediately do something in Owen Roberts rather than look at any place else, because that's the stranglehold at this point. So we came back then and said, let us talk to the board of directors of Cayman Airways and talk to the management of Cayman Airways and see how we could right-size the fleet for Cayman Brac, because some of the things that were happening was that there weren't enough seats in the marketplace Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday night, he put 120 seats in with the jet, and that was running a very weak load factor. Mm-hmm. Friday's always full, knock on wood. Sundays as a strong position. And then it was more of a timing issue of when these seats would be better put in the market. The example is that if you can put 5 jets every night at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's not going to do anything for the friends and family, for the local population, or for the tourism market, which we depend on for jobs. So Cayman Airways did a business case on it. They came back and they identified the right sizing the fleet would be a 30 to 34 seater based on what was available in the market and what the costs would actually be. So what they came back with was the plane of choice was a Saab 34 seater, which wasn't available in a short term, and the Embraer that's been leased now that is actually on the run is brought in. I can stand to be corrected, but I believe it's brought in for 4 months until Cayman Airways management can actually source the 34-seat Saab to put in the route. But it's been interesting last week. I can tell you the first day that it went in chock-a-block full with 30 people. The next day I think it had 24, 26. So I'm told the load factor has been quite good on it, and obviously that's a starting point. It will do a couple things, I believe, for the BRAC tourism market, and that is we never know how many people didn't get there because they couldn't get space in the plane. We look at some of the opportunities that are now, people are now starting to talk about. We've had a couple people call the ministry about day trips, about how they set up day trips, get to the concierge in Cayman, identify the market in Cayman, and fully realizing that there's a tremendous market for the sister islands in Cayman that have, in theory, already been vetted because they can afford to be in the Cayman Islands. They're already here vacationing, and they're looking for other things to do. So we're very excited about that.
Okay, so the 30-seater, as it is, as far as I understand, has been leased.
Correct.
But the Saab 340 will be purchased. Is that correct?
At this point, the Saab 340 would also be leased with the option looking at what the best business case is for Cayman Airways, a lease purchase.
Okay.
But the difference is a wet lease and a dry lease. The
Right.
Saab would be the dry, which means Cayman Airways crew will fly it and staff it.
Okay. And as it is right now, I understand that other staff from, is it Inter-Caribbean Airlines?
Correct. Inter-Caribbean is providing the crew as well.
Okay, but tell us a little bit about the plane. It's equipped with certain equipment that obviously the little 12-seater is not, yeah.
But it's a 30-seater. It has a restroom in it. It has a flight attendant in it. It's a 25-minute flight back and forth to Cayman BRAC. It goes directly into the BRAC. And it connects, the morning connection is that the Twin Otter leaves at approximately the same time and goes through Little Cayman, then goes on to Cayman BRAC. So basically what used to be 14 seats in the market at 8 o'clock in the morning has now turned into 44 seats in the market. So we'll see how this affects the traffic flow into Cayman BRAC and Little Cayman. And it also, again, I say it gives a lot of opportunity for day trips in there and back out. So we're really working right now with some of the entrepreneurs who are looking at this.
Okay. So on the low days, would we still use the Twin Otter to take if we have less than, let's say, 14 or passengers going over to Cayman BRAC rather than using the 34-seater?
If that was the case,
30-seater?
but I think Tuesday is the only day that they don't have that plane on the sched. But what we have found is that the Twin Otter was flying 5 to 6 times a day. So the demand is there, and what Cayman Airways has found is as they continued to add seats, they continued to build the number of people that went back and forth. So again, the right sizing of the fleet, I can't impress this enough because what it does is it gives Cayman Airways the ability to take the right amount of people at the right price into the sister islands.
Okay. So we've talked about seating availability and actually getting our visitors and our residents returning home on the BRAC. As we're going to take a break, when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion here with Minister Kirkconnell as he talks about tourism on Cayman BRAC. We'll have more on For the Record in just a minute. You can give us a call. Please do give us a call with your questions and comments for our guests in studio this morning. The numbers to call are 1-800-534-8255 or 949-80 2737. Those numbers are courtesy Lime. And again, give us your call with your comments and questions. If you're just joining us, I'm Donna Bush, filling in for Mr. Orrit Connor today. We're here talking about tourism as it relates to our sister island of Cayman Brac. And with me, of course, to talk about it is our Deputy Premier and Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Moses Colonel. He's joined by Director of Public Transport, Mr. Dirk Banks. So when we left the conversation on For the Record just a few minutes ago, we were talking about availability of airline seats into Cayman Brac. But let's talk about the wider scope of things and developments on the Brac. Lots happening over there. Let's talk about some of the initiatives, Minister Colonel, on the Brac.
Thanks, Donna. What we found, again, was that after Hurricane Paloma, the Brac was basically rebuilt because, remember, we had 90% of all the buildings on the Brac were damaged in some way, 60% catastrophic. So we went through a period of time that was a real stimulus to the economy. There were quite a few, probably 400 people more, construction workers and help that had moved to the island. And you had, for the lack of a better word, a mini boom on Cayman Brac. Mm-hmm. And we knew that was going to slow down. They did a tremendous job in rebuilding the island. The private homes, road work, the hotel rooms, the villas, tremendous job of what they did. But it slowed down. And one of the reasons, we touched on the airlift, one of the reasons that we look at infrastructure and airlift is to understand that we have to build a little economy back. And that's what we're in the process of doing. And there are a lot of things that go into the one pillar that we have to stand on, which is tourism. We always say that the other pillar in the Brac is actually the government employment and the government jobs there. But when we look at some of the things that are taking place, as an example, the Water Authority started the expansion program last year. Mm-hmm. And Water's Life, this is tremendous. They have been there, they've redone the West End, and now they're moving east. That this year they propose to get to the West End Primary School and continue to move on east to finish the water system on the Brac, which is almost unheard of for a small island in this region. So we say kudos to the Water Authority, kudos to the government, and we look forward to continuing to get that throughout the island. The other part of the infrastructure, obviously, started by my colleague, the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, Madam Speaker, was the roadworks, and that continues to go forward. Mm-hmm. We're very pleased with, we've got the North Side Road, South Side Road, and now the Bluff Road is in process and doing very well with that. So people comment on that immediately as they come there, the road. Mm-hmm. The airport itself, again, we spoke about the business plan for the airports. I'm extremely proud to say that the Charles Kirkconnell Airport is about 60 days away from completion of what had to be done there. Oh, wow. And what that basically is, it was prepared to receive 150 people arrival and departure. So you had to expand both sides of it. And you expand it with the understanding that, again, the airport is a piece of infrastructure that's used to facilitate and stimulate your economy. So it makes it easier for returning residents, friends and family to get through, and it also makes it a world-class facility for the visiting tourists as well. And it's going to give us the opportunity now with the whole baggage screening and the aspect of turning it into really an international airport. It's going to give us the opportunity to start running some direct flights into the United States, which will help our tourism market as well. Now we're allowed to bring flights directly from Miami into Cayman Brac, but we weren't able to take them directly back. They had to always come through Grand Cayman. And from a tourism standpoint, when you think that the last experience the tourist remembers is transferring through another stop, we believe this is a very positive step for returning visitors and the thoughts that we leave them with once they've had a tremendous vacation on Cayman Brac, or even as they connect through Cayman Brac coming from Little Cayman. So that's going to give the opportunity for Cayman Airways to run flights directly into the United States. It'll also give Cayman Airways the opportunity to take some of the stress off Owen Roberts Airport, because the flights that run into Havana are extremely successful. But again, they come through Owen Roberts. Some of those flights can be laid off. I don't think that you'll lose any of the passenger load, but it will take the stress off Owen Roberts as well and move some coming through Cayman Brac and give some opportunity there as well from the standpoint of employment, and again for entrepreneurs selling wares in the airport area there, in the departure area. So we're very excited about that. Again, that should come online, we're hoping, right around the end of the year. And I can tell you confidently, with all of the reports we had from last week, it looks like everything is on time. People that are there actually see the construction going on, so that's a positive. Our road program, we've talked about that. The affordable housing program, contracts are awarded. I would suspect that if they didn't get started last week, I know the contractors were involved with the board there, and I heard they were going to get started this week, so that's a positive. This year we have cruise ship arrivals that actually start in December. That's a little Star Clipper line that came last year and had a good experience, so they booked to come back. I think it was 4 months this year. And another cruise line is also signed for a couple of visits there. So we hope for good weather when they come, and that's a good experience. And we know it was the conversation that we had with the guests that came ashore was very positive for them being able to visit. So again, there's not one thing that's going to build the BRAC economy immediately. It's a lot of pieces that go into the puzzle, and you can see it's a step of, you've got to get them there, you got to give them the experience, you got to make sure they get home safely, and we believe we can do all that, but it takes a little time to put all these pieces of puzzle in place. So we're moving forward with that. Last week we had a big contingent from Royal Cayman Island Police over, and they're moving one of their fast boats to the BRAC in November with a Marine Patrol contingent that will actually be located. The office will be staffed in the BRAC, so that's a positive. And then there's quite a few of the fireman jobs coming up next month as well.
Okay, well, we have a caller on the line. Thank you for calling For the Record. Would you have a question or a comment for our guest this morning?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. This is number one from the BRAC.
Morning, number one.
Morning.
Boss Cocorda,
Yes, sir.
you behaving yourself?
Worried about you.
Huh?
How about you?
When you tell me, I'll tell you.
Fair deal.
That's politics. Listen, what I want to ask you is this. Is the government trying to get water lines run through Cayman Brac from West End to Spot Bay, south side straight up?
The lines, as you know, have started. The plant itself is on the west end. They've started west end, and they're moving along the north road. And this year, they're hoping to get as far as the West End Primary School. Second part of that is to put another plant itself on the bluff, somewhere around Aston Reddy Civic Center, that will be not only in a higher elevation, but will help distribute to the Eastern District.
Well, I really hope something is done about that, because sometimes all I can weekend when you're going to, sometimes you don't even remember you run out of water.
Right.
Come now, let's face facts, and you know, like me, half of the time I don't remember.
Okay.
Except when you're around there.
Okay.
And the last thing I want to ask you is this. When it comes to this government TV channel, listen, tell your leader, tell the governor, whatever it costs, put it on to the back too, because we deserve it just as much as everyone down there.
Totally agree with you, and I can assure you I'm working on it.
Well, I really hope you work hard, you sweat hard, but I ain't going to touch you.
I hear you.
because I'm afraid.
All right. Thanks, number one. Thank you very much. And I can expound on the question as it relates to government TV on the BRAC. We're working on it feverishly. As we know, Logic is now the owner of Westar. So we're in talks with them, and will be more so in the weeks going forward. They know what the plan is, and certainly we hope that happens for our BRAC residents sooner rather than later. But getting back to what we were talking about, Minister Kirkconnell, you talked about the airport. With the expansion at the airport in Cayman BRAC, the Charles Kirkconnell Airport, does that now mean that there's more opportunity for employment as well as maybe business ownership within the airport?
Well, absolutely. That's twofold. Number one, running more flights and bringing more people through the airport. You have two different types of opportunity. Number one, you have the opportunity that takes more people to staff, more people working at Cayman Airways, and it spills out. You need more firemen. You look at what you're going to have there in the departure area itself. So let's just say, as an example, if we were to run two flights that connected during the week, you'd probably put an extra 200 to 250 people in that departure area that would be looking to buy small things, and that would give the shops more opportunity in the airport itself. You know, they look at an airport building as a profit center, so to speak, because it kind of captures your market around, and then you have the opportunity to sell them. We're not, unfortunately, that aggressive because of what the plan is in the next 12 months of how many people and how many flights will go through there. But we put ourselves in a position that we have the opportunity now, and maybe other airlines will actually look at using that airport itself as a facility to come into the islands.
Okay. And you also touched on cruise tourism and the fact that starting in December, some of the smaller cruise ships will be visiting the BRAC. Now, I know that there's actually no facility at the docking area there, but do you think that the facility as it is, with the tents and all that sort of stuff, kind of lends itself to the continued ambience of the island, and really there's no need to, build this elaborate facility to accommodate cruise visitors there, and probably the market is not that large as yet. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that in theory. What we found with the smaller cruise ships, obviously the guests on board, their per capita income was much higher. They're wanting to experience something that other people haven't experienced. So coming to a small developed island like Cayman BRAC was something that their friends put back on a bucket list when they heard about it, and we believe that we know for a fact that they totally enjoyed the island itself.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go to news now with Jamie Tuweel. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Orit O.C. Connor this morning. Just a reminder again that For the Record is brought to you by Champion House Restaurant 2 and Champion House Cafe, as well as the Auto Spa located on Godfrey Nixon Way. Please give us a call. You can call us courtesy of Lime. Those numbers to call toll-free is 1-800-534-8255 or directly on 949-8037. If you're just joining us, our guests in the studio this morning, our Deputy Premier as well as Tourism Minister, Mr. Moses Kirkconnell, and Mr. Dirk Banks, Director of the Public Transport System. We've been talking about tourism on our sister island of Cayman BRAC. We've talked about a number of initiatives that are taking place over there that Mr. Kirkconnell highlighted, mainly the expansion of the Charles Kirkconnell Airport, as well as roadworks and waterworks that are continuing on our sister island of the BRAC. He briefly touched on cruise tourism as well, just highlighting that starting in December, a number of smaller cruise lines will be going into Cayman BRAC, and the numbers are increasing there. We want to move over now to our other guest, Mr. Dirk Banks. As I mentioned, is in the studio this morning to talk about public transportation as it relates to Cayman BRAC. Welcome again, Mr. Banks, and thanks for being here with us. So let's talk about public transportation as it relates to employment on Cayman Brac?
Thank you, Donna. And before I start, I would not be able to go back there if I didn't say hello to my mother and father. So good morning.
Smart.
With relation to public transport in the Brac, I think there's opportunity for growth there. And often when I share this with persons, they're a little bit in shock. We currently only have 2 taxis on the Brac and 1 tour bus operator. And what the minister touched on is obviously the growth of tourism that is taking place on the Brac. Obviously, there were sporadic cruise ships, but not on a steady schedule that started from last year. So this is going to create a need for transportation. And I often say to persons here in Grand Cayman about persons who come in a cruise ship, have you ever seen any one of them bring a car? And obviously the answer is no. So they're going to need transportation. So transportation is the key to get them to various attractions, businesses, sightseeing, and to obviously share a great opportunity. When you tie that in with the Charles Colonel Airport, again, with having direct flights in, increased seating capacity, and possible expansion to direct flights out, that's going to create, again, more need for transportation and the opportunity for persons living on the Brac to get into transportation.
Okay. We're going to stop there for a moment. I understand we have 2 callers on the line. Welcome to For the Record. Do you have a question or a comment for any of our guests this morning in studio?
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to hear the 2 gentlemen on the show, and particularly that you're touching on public transport. I think that that is a very important subject. I mean, there are all kinds of things involved this morning, I can tell, regarding the tourism product. And what I'd like to say is that we have some very good ambassadors certainly in the public transport with the omnibuses and so on. While I will get the sort of negative part of this out of the way as quickly as possible, that is that there are still a few buses. I use the bus service a lot. I do get up and down to town by car, but also I use that public transport a lot because when I get into town, I do most of my walking, and that's been helping me a lot. But what I will say is that there's some of those buses, a few of them, they really should not be on the road. They're not, you pay $2 from West Bay on a really nice air-conditioned bus that is not noisy. The seats are nice. They're not jittery, and you wonder sometimes if the seat is going to fall off or fall over. So I think there needs to be a very vigilant action on the part of those who have to inspect those buses, because most of them, I must tell you, are in very good condition. The other thing is that there are a few things that I've encountered, and I had to very, very somewhat quietly and discreetly speak to a bus driver some weeks ago. A young couple was picked up from by the Marriott, and they simply said, "Does this go by the Safe Haven dock?" And the gentleman said, "Yes, you can get in." So I thought, the Safe Haven dock? This guy needs to know where the Safe Haven dock is. So anyway, as we went down, I was right behind the driver, and I said, the Safe Haven dock is a way long distance over there, past the bypass. So he said, well, they can walk through here by the west end. Anyway, I didn't say any more at that point because I didn't, But what should have happened was perhaps take them to the west end and say, from here, you can get a cab over to the Safe Haven dock. But here was this young couple. My daughter and I were sitting there, one of my daughters, and so we just went over to the guy and said, this is 4:30 in the afternoon. It's hot. They're dressed apparently to go for dinner or a late evening supper or something. I said, sir, they're going to be so sweaty by the time they get there. Something has to be done about this. So all I'm saying is there has to be something done whereby public transport on the bypass is more frequent, and also that the drivers are told that they need to say up front to the tourists where you can go, what the distance is. Don't take their $2 fare and then tell them it's just up the road. It's not just up the road. So as I close off, I want to say particularly to our Caymanian drivers, and this is from experience, this isn't something conjectured. I can tell you that they are warm and welcoming, and if I were a tourist coming to this country, I would be happy to get on their bus. It's that Caymanian flavor of a welcome. So for the rest of them who are out there, not saying they're not friendly, at least for the most of them, but you need to somehow take a little bit of an example from our local Caymanian guys here. They know what to do to make a tourist feel welcome. Gentlemen, have a very good day. Thank you so much for the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. And I believe we have another caller on the line, and then we'll address what the previous caller had to say. Thank you for calling For the Record.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to hear a familiar voice. This is Quincy Brown speaking. How are you doing?
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning,
Brown.
Quince.
Good morning.
Excellent. I miss Mr. OC, but I don't know what's going on. When Mr. OC used to work immigration, I always used to joke with him, I used to say to him, Mr. OC, we need more time stamping on my passport, sir. And we would always have a good laugh at that.
Well, it's good to have you here this morning, Quincy, and of course, thank you for the laugh. It's a great start to my day.
Look here, the best medicine in the world, is laughter.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right. Minister Kirkconnell, glad that you're the guest this morning, sir. And I was wondering, as it relates to transport, I know it's no issue getting a bus from Georgetown to West Bay, from Georgetown to North Side, from Georgetown to Easting, etc. What would be nice, though, is if we had a couple of the omnibuses just focusing on the Georgetown area, like somebody want to get from Smith Road to Walker's Road, or from Eastern Avenue to Boilers, or from School Road to Mary Street, whatever, focus on the Georgetown area. Because a lot of times in the hot sun, it's kind of hard to be walking up and down. So that's the suggestion I want to make there. I would like to thank you, sir, and the government for the introduction of the new aircraft, the 30-seater. It's welcome. It's well needed. And I'll get the prisoner Sunday coming. I look forward to that too.
Quincy, we're not hearing you the best. I don't know if your face or your hand is over the phone, but we're not hearing you the best. So if you could just maybe.
So how is that now? Is that better
much
now,
better, much better. Thank you.
Okay, so I got to start over, or
if you wish. For those of us that can't hear as well.
All right. And if I'm going too heavy in the accent, the Caymanian lingo, I'll put it to standard English at this time.
Well, we know that you're good at all of that.
I should like to thank the minister for the introduction of the 30-seater aircraft, which began service last Wednesday. It is a well-needed route in that the Twin Otters, they're still doing what they got to do, but it's nice to have an aircraft now in between the Twin Otter and the 737 with an air hostess on board to offer some in-flight service. So that's a good thing. I think it's going to help with airlift to Cayman Brac. It's well needed, and I give it 2 thumbs up. Well done, Minister of Tourism and the government indeed. As it relates to the omnibuses, there is no problem getting a bus to West Bay or to North Side from Georgetown. But if we could focus on at least 2 or 3 buses just operating in the Georgetown area, central Georgetown, coming from the waterfront to Walker's Road, to Smith Road, so that people that don't have transportation, those that have to walk, would be able to pay $1 or $1.50, $2 max, to get to and fro within the central Georgetown area. That's a suggestion. And finally, I would like to thank you, Mr. Mose, and the government for providing the people of Cayman Brac some work. We're very grateful for that. You have a happy nation when you have the people out there working, making their own. So for that, on behalf of Miss Valerie, on behalf of Miss Nicole, on behalf of John B., we want to say thank you for the work, and thank you, Miss Mariana, for giving us the opportunity to work. Have a great day. Thank you.
Quincy,
Thank you, Quincy.
Quincy, we hope you're going to apply for a taxi license over in the Brac. I think you'll be a great ambassador.
He's a great ambassador.
Yeah. Oh, he is. Absolutely. Quincy is the best. So our previous caller before Quincy talked about the friendliness of the bus drivers as well as how informed or uninformed that they are. What do you care to say about that, Banks?
Yeah, thank you, Donna. We recognize, and when I say we, the Public Transport Board recognize that we could do things a little better. And what we'll be rolling out with some of our products and services, and it was a timely question, in that we'll be putting up at all the bus shelters and sticking on the buses themselves how to use the public transport system and how to which route goes where. So for those convenience, and so if the bus driver is not able to speak to them, they can actually see in the bus which bus operates where, and of course at the bus shelter which bus operates and goes on which particular route. I am in agreement with her with the bus that goes on the bypass. Originally we only had one bus traveling there, and we realized that was not frequent enough. We've got two more operators, and that's two more Caymanians that's gotten jobs in transportation. We're also going to be adding, or we're looking to add more bus routes to the last caller point. We've had some requests for buses obviously on Walker's Road, Smith Road, and Fairbanks. We're going to have a bus service there. We're going to have a bus route also traversing South Church Street and South Sound to cover some of the business there. And the third bus route that we're looking at is the Industrial Park. We often get a lot of requests, for instance, persons traveling to Caribbean Utilities Company. They want to go down there and pay the electricity bill. So we do get a lot of requests there. And I must say that the current buses that we have, they would take them if you attend the bus depot and if you want to get around. So they are very friendly, but we recognize that certain things we can do a lot better, and we're looking to roll those out shortly.
And certainly the hospital would be a big area where you see people, especially some of our elderly, having to get back and forth.
And definitely we have a bus route that's actually been approved with an operator there that actually takes people right into the hospital. And that should be rolling out very, very shortly.
All right, we're going to continue our conversation here on For the Record as it relates to tourism and public transport in the Cayman Islands. Right now, we're going to go to a break, and we'll be back with more. And welcome back to For the Record. I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Orit O.C. Connor today. Again, For the Record is brought to you by Champion House Restaurant 2 and Champion House Cafe, as well as the Auto Spa on Godfrey Nixon Way. If you're just joining us, we're talking tourism as well as public transport here with our two guests this morning, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Moses Colonel, as well as Director of Public Transport System, Mr. Dirk Banks. Gentlemen, again, welcome. We thank you for the calls that we've been getting so far. We're going to continue our conversation now as it relates to public transportation. Now, Mr. Banks, I know that recently a number of taxi drivers and bus licenses have been granted or approved. You want to touch on that for us?
Sure. Well, Donna, first of all, we've been seeing a steady growth. Just give you the background why we're issuing some new licenses. And comparing this year to last year, for instance, with cruise arrivals, we're up about 400,000 cruise ship passengers, and obviously they're going to need transportation. So we saw that as an opportunity to give Caymanians employment. And the one thing that I must stress with transportation, that all the owners are Caymanian, and that's mandated by law. So 100% owners of the tours, buses, 100% owners of the taxis, 100% owners of the omnibuses are Caymanians, and of course the water sports, limousines, and we have school buses as well. Through the various categories, for instance, the taxis, we've issued new taxi license, about 33, if I remember correctly. We've issued 35 new driver's permit for school buses, and they're all Caymanians, I'm happy to say. We've also issued 13 new tour operators permits and 12 tour drivers, which are all Caymanians. We've had fewer numbers in the omnibus. We had 4 Caymanian operators, and we've had 3 Caymanian drivers. And then we've had, I think it's 2 water sport operators approved and 1 driver. So overall, we've had roughly about 100 jobs created in transportation from June last year to current. And with the projected growth that we're expecting, there's 2.1 million cruise ship visitors as well as stayover. That again, it's going to create opportunities for Caymanians to get into the business and actually own their own piece of the pie, so to speak.
Okay.
If I could touch on this as well, I'm extremely happy that Mr. Banks came this morning, because every time that I am on a radio show, there's always a lot of questions about transport. I think what he just explained is showing the opportunity that from the ministry level, from the government's level, when we look at increasing from 1.3 cruise visitors to 1.6 this year, and next year looking at 1.9 million, you realize the type of opportunity that we're working extremely hard to create for Caymanians to get involved in this industry.
Right.
And Caymanians are entrepreneurs by nature, and they will thrive in this industry. But make no mistake about it, it's a tough business, and it's an industry that takes a lot of work to, number one, make sure you manage the experience, and number two, make sure, as you've heard the comments earlier from some of the callers, to make sure you're going in the right place and you're doing the right thing. So as you grow your business, there's a tremendous effort from Mr. Banks's transport group to work with this fluid situation of making sure when you go from 1.3 to 1.9 that you still are able to give the same experience, and number two, to make sure that the Caymanians that you're empowering are having a fair opportunity to be successful. So we're working hard to create the environment for each of them to be successful. And I mean, his little thumbprint there of basically saying, look at what's happened from when we opened the moratorium on these licenses 3 months ago. We've now created 100 jobs, 100 new jobs that are well-paying jobs, that are entrepreneurial jobs, that, as Mr. Banks says, gives you the opportunity to be as big as you want to be when you look at some of the success stories there.
All right. Well, that's wonderful.
And the other part of it is that to make sure that Caymanians take part in this growing tourism industry, the hospitality school, with 25 young Caymanians that will turn into 50 next year in the school, you start seeing the empowerment of creating a bigger industry, of how you start moving Caymanians into this industry and making sure they take advantage of it.
All right. Thank you for those words, Minister Colonel. We're going to take a call now. Thank you for calling For the Record.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes,
You're on the air.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Donna and panel. Just a few comments or observations on regarding public transport. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. You mentioned, a previous caller mentioned about the routes, person getting on board the bus and not being totally, or the driver not being totally honest about the route. It's a thing that I've observed. I think that maybe you could put, most of the places that have public transport, the buses have the routes clearly displayed on the outside. It'll say, Easton via Bordentown, Georgetown to Easton via Bordentown, or West Bay via, the bypass road or whatever. So somebody's seeing the bus. You don't have to get on board the bus to know exactly where the bus is going. You can see from the clearly displayed route sign on the bus itself. Also, I think that the current numbering, like each route has a number, and then it has like little numbers. It has like number 2 WB, number 9 EE or something like that. And those are, yes, they're visible, but they're not highly visible. And EE for a Caymanian, we might know Easton, but for a foreigner, they're not, or a tourist, I should say, they're not familiar with that. So maybe it should say, like I said, have it displayed clearly, Georgetown to Easton via north side or wherever the route may be, all clearly displayed on the outside of the bus. Secondly, regarding to some of those eastern routes, I know the north side route and the eastern route. You've heard complaints about the buses not going all the way.
And I've seen that. I've witnessed that myself of buses, the number 9 bus and the number 5 bus, I think they are. I've seen them turning around at Midland Acres, and coming back down and turning around up at the police station area there in Bordentown. And apparently, when they don't have enough passengers to justify the drivers due to justify going all the way, they don't go. And then there are people waiting on the roads, because I know I'm on the road. I do sales, so I'm on the road a lot. And I'm always picking up people, especially on the eastern end, to complain about how long they've been waiting for a bus, especially in north side and eastern area. People out in the hot sun standing. Picked up a lady the other day. She looked fine, almost gone, far gone. So she'd been waiting there more than 2 hours for a bus. And I think they need to look into that make sure that the buses, if they are running a route, that they are running that route, and not just shortchanging people. And thirdly, there's any thought of consideration being given to some public transport in Cayman Brac? Because I've been there and I know people complain, especially up in the Spot Bay area and the eastern area, that they need a ride to get down to West End, Stake Bay, in that area, and unless they can hitch a ride or beg a ride, there's no public transport available. I know in Cayman Brac is a little different situation, but maybe some kind of limited public transport system up there could be looked into.
Sir, we thank you.
I'll just leave you with those.
We thank you so much for calling us this morning, and we'll address your points in just a bit. We have a number of calls on hold. To our next caller, welcome to For the Record. Do you have any comments or questions for our guests? Miss Daphne, I understand you're back on the line with us. Welcome again.
Good morning. Yes, I was conscious of a 3-minute thing there just now, so I didn't get across. Number one, to say to the Honourable Minister and to Mr. Banks how pleased I am with all that you're doing, Mr. Kirkconnell. Not that I'm totally surprised about the way that you and your minister are handling tourism, the product. I am not surprised, but I can tell you it's always good to look forward to the good news that's coming out and all the things that are happening. God bless you. I'm sure you're giving it your all. And what I'd like to say is back to the taxi business again. Something has to be done, and like now, about what happens when one gets into town. There is always, you almost have, it's like pulling a teeth sometimes to get a drop to the hospital or up by, say, the government admin building. If you need to go to the Labour Department over there in the new roundabout where the Butterfield Bank is, it's difficult. There's like no one wants to take that, divert to go in that direction. There has to be a system, either whether that's a part of a certain route, that because the hospital, the government admin building, the Labor Department, even if you want to go to the credit union, those are areas that are off the beaten path. And something has to be done about a guaranteed transportation system that goes by there, particularly when one has to go to the hospital. The Windsor Park and Boilers area, time and time again, I've seen people by the bus stop wondering how in the world they're going to get, they're going past. I need a ride to Windsor Park. I need a ride to. So I remember looking at a lady the other day and I said, Mom, it's easier for me to get to West Bay than for you to get to Windsor Park. And so something has to be done about the town route. That has to be looked into more carefully. So thank you very much for that. Again, congratulations. We look forward to all the good news. And I'm sure that the people of the BRAC and Little Cayman are confident that things are going to move forward in their neck of the woods as well.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Daphne, for that call once again. We have a number of callers on the air. Thank you for calling For the Record. Do you have a question or a comment this morning?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. If you could keep it brief for us, as we have a number of other callers right behind you, sir.
Okay. I'd just like to mention to the Minister, good morning, Minister Kirkconnell.
Morning, sir.
First of all. Yes, sir. at the new airport that businesses are able to open up their businesses at the new airport. So I'm hoping now that these businesses that are going to be opening there at that new airport, they should have enough time to realize what type of people they're going to need to be working with them. So they have enough time to make sure that Caymanians have the first opportunity of working with them. Because what tourists are asking when they come here to Cayman, where are the Caymanians? Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. And we have another caller on the line. Welcome to For the Record. We'll address, of course, the answers or the questions and comments that the other callers had before. Please go ahead with your question or comment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Donna, and your guest, Mr. O'Connell and Mr. Banks.
Morning.
Morning.
Firstly, I'm going to ask a question, and that is, on Elgin Avenue, in close proximity to the new government building, is two bus shelters, one in front of immigration and one in front of or across the road from the Cayman National Bank. Now, as far as I am aware of, the number 7 buses, Georgetown bus, the bus that runs, or supposed to be running in there, but I do not see anything passing by here except people going to immigration and really no bus service on it. Has the Transportation Board or the Ministry given any thought to that? I have not heard the whole program, I must admit that. I tuned in late on it.
All right, I believe Mr. Banks can address that question for you. Do you have another question or comment before we move on to our next caller?
Yes. The next question is, the last time that I am aware of a adjustment being made in the tax affairs was 2007, September. 7 years has passed, and the Transportation Board does not address that. It is always not proactive with that, and I would ask the Ministry and the Director of Public Transport if they would please convene a meeting and consider what the rate should be in it. Because 7 years, nobody has to ask if things have increased in the last 7 years. The prices continually go up, and the taxi drivers have to keep abreast of that cost. I mean, the vehicles, everything is going up. Has gone up 7 years. Has not adjusted, and that is where a lot of the criticism I read every day. They call the taxi drivers thieves. They call them all sorts of things. I mean, you may have a few unscrupulous ones, yes, but the majority are not. And they're just trying to do what they can to survive because the rates have not been adjusted in 7 years. So if the Ministry or the department, I don't know who's responsible for doing it, but somebody needs to convene a meeting and do something about that. And they would and set the rates. Government needs to take a proactive approach to the pricing and explaining to the taxi drivers what they do. A minimum fare is $8. For how far? Ask some of the taxi drivers. Question all of them that go through your offices in a day, and ask them how far you go for $8. So see what they answer. And I bet you not half of them can tell you what it is. But just please be consider. Please.
All
it
right,
will help to make things a lot better.
Thank you so much for making your points this morning. We'll address them in just a few minutes. We do have one final caller on the air. Welcome to For the Record.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to Mr. O'Connell and Mr. Banks as well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Armand Morgan here calling in regards to the people that are licensed, whether it's taxi drivers or tour operators. Some time ago, I have briefly mentioned it to Mr. Banks. Ambassadors of this island that has been into the business 25, 30 years. Johnny come lately gets a taxi license like today, he has the same privilege of those of us who has the experience, the knowledge of being a tour operator or a taxi. I am asking, why is the taxi and tour operators not graded with your experience? Another embarrassing thing is this, and we heard that something was going to be done. That is that while we're up in Thomas Russell Way into the holding grounds, people call it the bush. Other people are on the street soliciting tours while we're here trying to be abiding by the rules and regulations, and nothing is forthcoming as we can see. I would like you guys to give me some answer as to why, after so many years, this is the situation. And I will say this and get off the phone. I think your taxi and tour operators, all of these years, we have no recognition for the service that we have been giving into this country as excellent ambassadors to this country. We should be given some sort of seniority into this situation, not to be graded with someone that came in here yesterday, has no knowledge, and apparently don't care. The almighty dollar is the bottom line. So thank you very much, and I'll listen to what you guys have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much to you, sir, as well as to our previous callers. We're going to start with Minister Kirkconnell because there's one area that he has to tackle before we move on to Mr. Banks, who seems to be in the hot seat this morning. Minister Kirkconnell, one of our callers talked about businesses within the expanded Owen Roberts Airport. And I believe that they were talking about the persons who would be working in the businesses on the front line, but as well as the owners of the businesses, as being Caymanian. And he was hoping that they would be people who were informed. And would you like to address that for us?
I'm quite happy to, and I want to thank him for that question because I think it's a very timely question. If he looks at how early this information has come out, which he pointed out, he said it gives you time to make plans on who you would put on the front line. Forward-facing Caymanians, whether they're behind the counter at the airport or whether they're checking you in at your hotel or whether they're in the taxi that takes you there, when you look at the whole process of people arriving and departing, it's quite obvious that the competitive edge that you're going to have is if you have Caymanians in that business working with you. We've tried extremely hard with the airport itself in the business case to make it transparent. It's online. People can look at it. They can see that the timelines that have been presented there are being met. We have every reason to believe that we'll be breaking ground late first quarter, second quarter next year, less than 2 years after I have given responsibility for this ministry, but less than 2 years after the government was elected. And we're quite pleased with what we're able to deliver. So I wanted to thank him for that position that he took, and I want to make sure that if he looks at the things that we are trying to do, I think it should give him comfort. The fact that there had been talk about a hospitality school in this country for years and years and years, but now there is a hospitality school. And if you have a minute in the day that you want to have a wonderful experience, go around some of those young people, those young Caymanians that are there, who are going to receive a degree in a year, the Gills degree, that will take them any place in the world and show that certificate, and they'll be able to get a job. We hope they don't leave our shores. But I believe that the exact point that he brought up are the things that we are doing.
All right. Well, we thank you for that information. And just to speak to the hospitality school and the recent opening, I mean, there are 25 students now doing that program, but there was a larger number of applicants who could not get into the program. But I understand another 25 will be taken on at some point. And just to point out as well, recently UCCI, University College of the Cayman Islands, where the School of Hospitality Studies is located at, had an anniversary celebration for their 10th charter. And the students, some of the students who aspire to be chefs and so on and so forth in our hospitality industry, provided the food for that event. And I heard it was marvelous. It was wonderful.
Fantastic. And when you look at the model, it's the Ministry of Education, my Ministry of Tourism, the private sector in a partnership that have come on board and not only are mentoring, but they're actually providing jobs for these young people. The UCCI campus, the bricks and mortar that's being used there, when you see the partnership that's evolving and the model of how this can continue going into the different industries that we need to make sure young Caymanians have an opportunity to be involved in. I think that it's a warm feeling when you see what's happening there.
All right. Mr. Banks, moving on to you and the subject of public transport. Our first caller talked about displaying the signs on the exterior of the bus that are there. He just thought that they should be larger so that people know exactly where the buses are going. I guess that would only relate to the bus depot area where the buses are stationary until they're mobile. Because if you're on the West Bay Road, for instance, and you're a visitor, you don't have time to really read signs on the actual bus itself. You want to address that for us?
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Donna. We actually do have signs on the bus to specify where they're going. It's actually at the entrance of the bus. We will review the size of it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if some persons are having difficulty reading where the bus actually travels, but we do actually, in fact, have the route of the bus where it traverses. Actually, on the side of the bus is actually by the entrance of the door. So before you get in, you can look and see where the bus actually travels to. Prior to entering the bus. However, like we said, we recognize that we could do more, and we're going to be rolling out a plan to educate the public on how to use the bus system. We spoke about the bus shelters earlier, putting how to use the bus system in the bus shelters so persons can understand. We also recognize, as we stated earlier, that there are some areas that need bus services, such as the hospital, Walker's Road, Fairbanks, which would encompass the Windsor Park area, Bobby Thompson Way. We've also talked about South Sound, South Church Street for businesses, and Industrial Park. And in particular, we looked at that one, and it's going to be a unique bus route in that it's going to go past the credit union, because one of the things you appreciate that there's going to be a redevelopment of the farmers market. So we looked at that and said, how the people from Georgetown, if you want to run up to the farmers market for lunch and have something 100% Caymanian again, how are you going to get there? You know, parking spots being premium as there is, you can jump on the bus for $2, just a short ride to the farmers market, and get your goods and then return. So we recognize those areas, and we're hoping to roll them out shortly. We've actually approved one person already for the Walker's Road, Hospital Road area, so that should be coming online again shortly. We recognize that we did have one going across the Elgin Avenue, Thomas Russell Way, with a caller. I won't mention his name, but I recognize him. He was a very good ambassador. But one bus was not sufficient. Obviously, you didn't see it frequent enough. We've added two more. Of course, there is opportunity there for persons to get into transportation. My personal opinion, 3 buses on that route isn't still sufficient. There's more growth in that route. In addition, I just want to touch also on the Cayman Brac bus route. Again, that's where we're talking about opportunity and entrepreneurship. As you appreciate that the government does not own any of the buses. We just regulate them. They're privately owned by Caymanians. Mm-hmm. And that is an opportunity for a bracker to get into business and offer a service. And we certainly would work with that person or persons and help him develop the routes as we've done in Grand Cayman. We were trying to work with someone, and he was uncertain. We're trying to, but hopefully this would spark someone else, and we see some positive results.
Okay. All right, with that, just to mention though, when you mentioned the credit union route, I mean, and also to bear in mind that the labor department is located right there. You got the education department that's right across the street. Will be the farmers market, credit union, and up the street you have the government building. So having that additional bus route there will certainly be of benefit to everybody.
Yeah.
All right, right now. We're going to go to the news right now with Jimmy, with Mr. Tuil. And good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Orit O.C. Connor. This bright and beautiful Monday morning in the Cayman Islands. Again, For the Record is brought to you by Champion House Restaurant 2 and Champion House Cafe, as well as the Auto Spa located on Godfrey Nixon Way. With us in our studio this morning, we have our Deputy Premier and Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Moses Kirkconnell, as well as the Director of our Public Transportation System, Mr. Dirk Banks. Before we went to our news, we had a number of callers who called in. Mr. Banks, as it relates to your position and your department, one of the callers talked about the eastern routes and the fact that sometimes some of the bus drivers will turn back in Bordentown because they have no additional passengers on board while they're pure persons waiting at bus stops in the eastern districts. What is the plan for that?
Thank you, Donna. As you would appreciate, in the House, the same question was brought up by the members from those districts. We recognize it is a challenge. Government with its financial position, we have to be creative and how we police them. We're faced with the same challenges of other government departments, of shortage of staff. Mm-hmm. We think that we have possibly come up with a solution. We're working with the Lansing Survey. They're currently doing a pilot program with GPSs. That will enable us to monitor the buses, where they travel, without actually having to add significant persons on them. Right now, the Lansing Survey Department, they're actually rolling out a pilot program, and based on that feedback, then we can look at implementing that over the years, so we can improve the service. I just want to say though, Donna, that while we do have challenges there, we recognize also that there has been an improving service, and from the feedback that we've been having, but there are still challenges, and we're working towards solving them.
One of those challenges seems to be there's been no increase in taxi fares since 2007, and one of our callers talked about that, and he believed and suggested that some type of a meeting needed to be convened so that the dialogue could then open back up.
Yeah, Donna, it was a very good question. It's not as simple as some persons would like to think and just agree and raise the prices. For instance, when they did raise the price on the taxi fare in 2007, in 2008, because we worked closely again with the petroleum inspector, and we got the gas rates. Gas prices actually went down, and we didn't adjust the actual taxi fares to reflect that. Mm-hmm. And shortly thereafter, taxi fares went up. But if you compare the taxi fares then with the fuel prices, there isn't that significant amount. And one thing that we have is that in the Cayman Islands, we're competing globally. And when we look at our taxi fares compared to our region, we don't want to overprice our product, because that's one of the complaints that we do get, that we're a little bit pricey. So the board does review the prices of taxis from time to time. The government also has done something to help the taxi drivers. Previously, there were renewal application fees. The government has taken that away, so there's zero fees for that. So there's a savings when it comes to your taxi license. Basically, you renew it, and it's basically almost for free. You just pay for your ID. So that's a positive to help offset the cost of operating a taxi.
Now, I know there was some talk at some point, and I believe it's something that the Public Transport Board decided not to go with at this time, and that's a metering system, which some people believe would lend more control to some persons randomly just giving out a cost for a fare, let's say to a visitor who may not know any better. What do you have to add to that?
Well, we're currently reviewing the metering system. Again, it has to come with the legislation. If I can just share with you that we are reviewing it, again, to better inform the public. Obviously, we're going to be doing something similar with the taxis, posting the fares actually on the vehicle, on the inside, so the passenger can actually see the fares and everything, which would help alleviate the perception that they're getting ripped off. In the Cayman Islands, we have a very unique system. As for instance, if you're in the United States and three of us jumps into the taxi, it's one fare. In the Cayman Islands, if it's 4 persons, so we have a standard fare for 3 persons, and every additional person, there's an additional fare. And again, come down to education of the public. People may feel that they're getting ripped off because when they got into the vehicle, they got charged 1 fare, but there was only 3 people in the vehicle. Now they're 5, and they went to the same distance. They went to the restaurant. They picked up 2 friends, and they're traveling back. So they wonder why the fare is more coming back, and that's one of the reasons that it is. So we recognize that we have to do a better system in educating the public, and we're looking at other products as well. We're looking at putting it in the phone book, so when people come here, they can look at the phone book and see taxi prices. They can look and see the bus routes, so people can get a better understanding of how the system works and how to use it.
All right, sounds like some great plans
yeah,
there.
Donna, the point is, I believe that there is actually something in the taxi that has the prices on it.
Correct.
That's what's considered the meter.
Right, correct. It's a taxi rate sheet, and it's based on distance.
Right.
Before we go any further, I just want to share with you and with the listening public that I got a note this morning from a friend, a little bit 5:18 this morning, and I thought this was extremely interesting.
They think you never sleep.
No, I didn't read it at
kidding.
5:18. But this is a practicing, very well-known attorney, young lady, says, I was out last night at Grand Ole House with my husband and his clients and promised to circulate this email. So often we rush to speak of our collective criticism, and when folks do things right, we withhold a compliment. These clients, totaling 26 with spouses included, have been in Cayman, staying the Ritz for 5 days. They have been coming to Cayman for 20 years and now enjoy a successful insurance captive. They have seen the island change with time, but took the opportunity last evening to make comparison to other small islands in the region. A few of the wives, which include the U.S. Senator and a director of an Ivy League university, were at Foster's at the weekend when it was raining, and someone went out of their way to show them the quickest way to return to their hotel. Webster's tour operators did a great job making them safe, helping them on and off the buses in the rain. The food and service has been outstanding and divine at the local restaurants. Their question, which, as they conceded, is everywhere, the rising prices. How do we manage to keep the islands clean, safe, and maintain superior service in restaurants and hotel? The experience has consistently been first class. I kept my promise because I wanted to focus on the positives and circulate this. I think it was fantastic that Teresa took the opportunity to circulate this to people in the industry. But the point that she's really making is that tourism is everybody's business.
It
we
is.
talk about Cayman Kind. The person at Foster's, the Caymanian at Foster's who helped them, never gave it a second thought. If you think about what people, our competitive edge and what people come to the Cayman Islands for, are us. It's, you think about each one of us. If we go to visit somebody, they either give us something to eat or they give us something to take with us because we're there in their house. So this is just something that's so positive, right, for us to realize that things that we sometimes take for granted and nobody ever says, this is Cayman Kind. Thank you very much for doing this. My shout out is thank you guys for doing all you do out there.
All right. Well, I'm sure many people are glad to hear that this morning, Minister Colonel, and I concur with you that, if you're just a part of this society living here, you're passing through, you're here as a permanent resident and has made Cayman your home or you're Caymanian, that Cayman Kind attitude makes a world of difference, and you really have to buy into that and buy into our history so that you're informed and knowledgeable about our main stake here, which is tourism being one of them. Right now, we're going to talk a little bit about one of the callers' comments, Mr. Banks, as it related to new licensee owners compared to those who've had their licenses for many, many years. And this gentleman suggested that maybe there should be some kind of a grading or tier system as it relates to experience and how long you've been in the industry. I'm not quite sure where he didn't offer any other solutions, and I don't know if that's something that your department has even considered tackling at this point. But can we at least address it for him?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say that all persons, it's mandated that all persons in the transportation industry go through the Pride workshop, which is put on by the Department of Tourism. Now, those are our standard measures, indicators as to customer service and Know Your Cayman Islands. So everyone goes through that. So it's if you're just getting your taxi license, you went through the program. If you've been a tour operator for 25 years, you also go through the program. So there are standard measurements that to ensure that our quality of our product is maintained regardless of the level of service. We've also worked closely with the Department of Tourism, and they have something what we call a mystery shopper. So this is done independently from public transport, and they annually go around and do basically a secret survey of the tourism product. And in particular, I've got some positive feedback from transportation. Some persons scoring 100%, and I haven't even spoken to the minister about this yet. And what I was thinking of doing is to get the minister to recognize those who have scored 100%, which is unbelievable. You know, there are persons who scored very high, but there are some that scored 100% in this, and this is without them knowing that they're even being surveyed.
That's amazing.
So, you know, we're considering those things about customer service and levels of customer service. Obviously, we want to have highlight the positive impact that is happening on the island, and there are a lot of positive stuff that's taking place.
We can make that decision this morning. We can certainly recognize those people.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, it's certainly our forefathers are elderly, some of whom are still around, and some of those who have passed really raised the bar and set the bar many, many years ago and decades ago, when you would go to restaurants locally, when you would go to, a lounge, or you would go to, a hotel. That's what the visitor look forward to, is that Cayman kind hospitality. And it's hard to maintain that when development comes along, but certainly it's something that we can aspire to continue on with. We're going to take a break, and right now here on For the Record, we'll be back in just a few minutes. And welcome back to For the Record. We're going to be wrapping up here in about 15 minutes. I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Orit O.C. Connor this morning. Just a reminder that the show is brought to you by Champion House Restaurant 2 and Champion House Cafe, as well as the Auto Spa on Godfrey Nixon Way. We're here this morning with guests, the Honorable Minister of Tourism and our Deputy Premier, Mr. Moses Kirkernel, as well as the Director of Public Transportation here in the Cayman Islands, Mr. Dirk Banks. Public transportation, tourism are those two subjects that we can go on and talk about for a very long time, and I'm sure we'll have them on again at some point. But right now, we're going to go to a caller before we continue our conversation. Thank you for calling For the Record.
Good morning, Donna.
Good morning.
Good morning to the Honorable Minister, Kirkernel, and to his...
Good morning.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Banks. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's amazing the topic that you have on this morning, only because, amazingly, just yesterday, I posted my personal thoughts on my own personal Facebook page about transportation system. And personally, I'm just going to say off the bat, I think our public transport system, while it worked for a while, and we've, over the years, tried to amend it and make it better, I personally think that we need to scrap the entire system that we have of independently owned omnibuses, those small minibuses, painted of every color, running how they want to and where they want to. I personally think that we need to think, and it's the 21st century. Cayman is a progressive little country. We should have a much better public transportation system than we currently have. I've been to Bermuda many times. I'm not sure if the Honorable Minister have been to Bermuda. And I was extremely impressed with their public transportation system. I call it the Pink Flamingo buses. People can rely on the buses. as it is in any major city. At the bus station for the times that is listed for when that particular bus will be there, it will be there. There's no reasons why we can't have a public transportation system that helps to move this country forward. There are great benefits in having a great public transportation system. There are many of them, but some of them right off the bat. Certainly we have an unemployment situation. The reality is that there are many people who do have their own transportation, and many of them who, for example, who may be unemployed. It's very difficult to get up and down, even go to work, even if you were employed, without having a car in Cayman, or certainly having access to a car or vehicle that is a ride by someone. We have a lot of seniors who become, locked away in their homes, who, quite frankly, many of them are able to, they would be able to maintain their independence and a little bit of dignity about themselves if they were able to comfortably get up and down on a public transportation system. There are many hundreds, if not thousands, of young people in this country who are glued to the front seats of their parents' cars, and they can't go anywhere. And usually, when they do have to go somewhere, their parents or someone else have to drop them. There's a tremendous amount of benefits to a public transportation system from an economic development standpoint. It opens up so many avenues. But I just think the public transportation system in this country, I would park my car and even sell it, is what I said on my personal Facebook page, if we had a proper transportation system. It's cheaper for many people. You can buy a monthly pass and travel the bus as often as you have to. I'm not necessarily suggesting, because there's a cost consideration, that government take that on, but certainly government can provide the framework for a proper public transportation system, whether it's owning the routes or otherwise. And I do believe it's very lucrative. It's the reasons why we have, many people who are certainly on the main routes who are vying to have their little mini bus and do it when they want to. I mean, after 9 o'clock, you can't get a bus in many places in Grand Cayman, never mind if you're working a very late night shift. It's a horrible thing, and my suggestion would be that we look at certainly overhauling and scrapping and moving forward with a much better system with much better buses.
Caller, thank you very much for your comments. I'm sure there are many people out there who will agree with you, and certainly it's a longer term fix or solution. But let's hear what our officials have to say about that suggestion.
Yeah. I want to thank him for that question. It's certainly a topic that we could spend quite a bit of time talking about. I think we spoke earlier about managing the system that's in place, and we also spoke about the improvements that needed to be put in place. The idea that we not only have the challenge, as he rightfully mentioned, of moving elderly people around, moving young people around, but also having a transport system that is extremely dependable, that you can depend on to get to work, to get home. We have the challenge now of increasing our tourism product and the people that are actually coming to the island that are depending on this as well. Mm-hmm. So the situation is very fluid. It's a time to start thinking of all of the different avenues that are available to us. Yes, I have been to Bermuda. Yes, I have seen the system. I've also seen the public transport system in other Caribbean islands as well, and it takes management wherever you are. So that's what I would ask the director, Mr. Banks, to speak to the challenges of managing and how we continue to put a better experience in front of a very good problem to have, which is a growing number of people that need this.
Mr. Banks?
Yeah, thank you, Minister. And I want to thank the caller for that question. It was a very good question. First of all, I know we like to, as a Caymanians, we like to compare ourselves to other destinations. One thing that I can say that we do better here than Bermuda is the cost. We actually, transportation is actually cheaper here than in Bermuda. And I can challenge that caller to Google it or TripAdvisor. So that's a positive for the Cayman Islands. Another thing that the Cayman Islands, so to speak, that we have compared to Bermuda is that we have a higher standard of living, in that you're mandated in Bermuda for one car per family. So you have to take the bus. You don't have a choice. If the car is not in the yard, you have to take the bus. So they have invested significant amount of into infrastructure, into the bus. And obviously that is a factor. The third thing I just want to speak to is that the growth that the minister talked about in the industry. We've had, from 2009, we had 51,000 persons take the bus from the Georgetown bus depot terminal. Last year, we had 137,000 people, roughly. This year, we're going to exceed 160. We're talking about we're adding the routes. We recognize that we can do certain things better. We're in a marketing program. So there are things that we recognize that we can do, and we are working towards that. And I'd just like to say to the caller, his observations are very valid, and we just ask him to be patient and we work on it.
Okay, we do have a final caller. Thank you for calling For the Record. Do you have a question or a comment this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I called earlier, and I appreciate the answers.
No,
but anyway,
no worries.
That's another observation I have, and it's tied in with the previous caller, which I totally agree with him that we need an overhaul of the current system. I would think about looking at a franchise, whereby we have a operator or operators who have to operate under certain conditions, in terms of the type of vehicle, the condition of the vehicle, the service, the frequency of the service, and all that kind of stuff, various, all the criteria. Also, something I've thought about for a long time is that we have 3 or 4 different buses or bus routes that come on the eastern end, coming from Georgetown to Bordentown or to Georgetown to East End or East End North Side via, and it's a lot of duplication. And I think the reason why may be that a lot of the buses don't go all the way is because, of that reason. I was thinking about maybe, this is something for future thought or you can think about, put in, like, say, a terminus in Bordentown, whereby you have the buses then from the Eastern District would feed into that. You'd have buses from North Side, from East End, bringing passengers, putting them at Bordentown, and then from Bordentown they take the bus and go to Georgetown. That would allow more frequent service to and from the far Eastern District, that is East End and North Side. And then they wouldn't have 3 different buses covering the same route. And it probably could be better control in that, you have passengers being delivered to Bordentown, and they take a bus then from Bordentown to Georgetown. Buses feeding into Bordentown, bring passengers to the Eastern District, and then they take the buses then to East End or North Side. And like I said, that way you don't have the duplication, and you might have a better control over the frequency and dependability of the service. But it's, like I said, something to think about. And it would mean, setting up, it doesn't have to be nothing fancy, just a few covered area maybe, or a few bus, those current bus stops that we have, a few of those, and, and that could open an amenity, your opportunities for entrepreneurs, at the bus terminus. You could have people selling snacks, beverages, whatever, open up that kind of opportunity then for other people. And I think, but that would have to be, like I said, operated or better operated under a franchise type system, because the current system where you have all these individual people, freelancers, so to speak, operating, yes, it works, but it could work a lot better, I think, if it was, a franchise whereby they have to provide a service up to certain standards, or unless, and then the franchise could be revoked or taken away or whatever, But it's something that we think about. And like the other caller said, if we had a proper, dependable bus service throughout the island, I think maybe people would be tempted to leave their cars. I know I, for one, would only use my car when I have to, or going to Georgetown to go to work, to sit in an office for most of the day, to come back home. Most of us, that's what we do. We drive to town. Our cars are parked all day, taking up parking space in Georgetown, and then we just drive back home in the evening. And similarly, quite a few people mentioned about a round town bus service. This is something I advocated a long time ago. A proper round town city bus service, whereby people could get from one side of town to the next, knowing that it's always available and dependable.
Caller, we thank you for your call and for your comments. I see your Director of Public Transport, Mr. Banks, making some notes there. So I'm sure that all will be considered. And as I mentioned earlier, and for the record, that we at some point will be having both gentlemen back to talk about this all important topic this morning. We're getting ready to wrap up, but I believe the Minister of Tourism wanted to make a comment or expound on the Premier's recent message at the Chamber of Commerce Legislative Luncheon. Mr. Colonel, you want to wrap up for us?
Thank you very much, Donna. I want to say that the Honorable Premier did a very good job in delivering his State of the Country address to the Chamber. He talked about the numbers there for the first half of the year for tourism, and it gives me the opportunity this morning to talk about the current numbers of where we really are, and the message and the information is actually continuing to be a very good story for the Cayman Islands, as he had in his speech that he gave. But we are actually up 11.7% at the end of August for air arrivals over last year. Wow. And cruise numbers were up 17.2% for the end of August. The September numbers are in for cruise, and the actual month of September was 48% higher than last September. So I believe that once we put those together, we'll probably be somewhere around 20% increase for the cruise arrivals. And I think that really took those numbers showed a lot of the reason we were having discussions this morning. When you look at the things that come with that and the challenges that come with growing, which again is a very good problem to have, because we're having to grow infrastructure, we're having to grow our labor force, we're having to grow all of the taxis and the buses and all of the accommodations. Obviously, what we upgrading the airport and the seaport and all these things that we look at, but we can't do any of those unless we continue to be stable in the arrivals, and that is a key indicator of what's taking place in our tourism industry. I got to say a big thank you to the Department of Tourism, to all the people that work in my ministry every day, working to do one thing, to make sure that we attract more people, and to make sure that we manage the expectation when they get here that they're happy, and we build repeat guests out of it. But in saying that, and in following up with the message that he sent out to the country about this pillar of our economy, it is heading in the right direction. We believe that it will continue. We're very excited about the next steps as far as some of the hotels that are coming, and new product that's going to be available. And our challenge, and I say this all the time, that if we don't continue to work hard to make sure that Caymanians participate in this industry and benefit from it, then we're doing something very wrong. And we believe this morning we laid out a path that we are on that is bringing more and more people into the industry, is providing more jobs for Caymanians. You heard the director talk about the legislation that actually provides in the legislation that only Caymanians can get a taxi license. And then, we're extremely proud of bringing the young Caymanians into the industry, and we'll continue to do that. So in closing, I just want to say thank you very much for having me here this morning, and look forward to when I get invited back.
All right, it's been our pleasure, Minister Colonel. Mr. Banks, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you to all of our callers for making our morning here on For the Record. Of course, we hope that you've been enlightened and are more knowledgeable now about what's happening as far as initiatives in our tourism industry as it relates to Cayman Brac and here in Grand Cayman, and about our transportation system, which is a topic that we could talk about all morning and probably never finish, but have to continue on as always. Again, For the Record has been brought to you by Champion House Restaurant 2 and Champion House Cafe, as well as the Auto Spa on Godfrey Nixon Way. I'm Donna Bush. For now, have a wonderful day and hope to hear from you again soon.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers. For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.